Hello fellow Gothamites! Welcome back to my How to Play the Batman Miniatures game 3rd edition series. In the last part we learned the phases of the game, how audacity markers work and how to move and shoot. In this part we will take a closer look at the other actions you can do, melee combat and how to score victory points with your objective cards. In the last activation, our brave ARKHAM guard with assault rifle spent an audacity marker to do the attack tactical action to shoot a Joker henchman. He succeeded with that, and since when using an audacity marker, a model can do all 3 of the possible actions in one activation. He senses some enemy movement in his back and wants to move in a more secure position. So we also use the movement action to move around the corner, out of the firing line of the alley. Since there's an obstacle in our way, we don't want to suffer from impaired movement. We measure the height of the obstacle. It is not more than 1 inch tall, so we can ignore it while moving. The movement value of our ARKHAM guard is 8 inch, so that will be enough to hide him in that corner from the Monarch Theater. We do not have things to do for a special action which we could do, so we end our activation. Let's hope this spot gives us a higher chance of surviving. Now, back to the Joker crew. The Joker player wants to activate Eyeball Man over at the construction site. Since Eyeball Man is far away from enemy territory, he wants to use the Cirrus to travel faster across the board. For this to do, the Joker player spends 1 of her available audacity markers to be able to do more than 1 action, like that. To use a Cirrus marker, the base of a model must touch it and use the manipulate tactical action. Since he's not touching the Cirrus marker, Eyeball Man does a movement action first. Now it's time for the manipulate tactical action. Since the tactical action is divided between either attack or manipulate, you can't do both, unless a special rule says otherwise. There are 2 kinds of manipulate tactical actions. You have to choose between place or reveal a suspect marker and use Cirrus. I will explain the first choice later. Eyeball Man chooses use Cirrus. When doing this, you can place your model in contact with any Cirrus marker on the board. A model can use a Cirrus only once per game round, and it can't move further after it uses the Cirrus. Let's travel to this Cirrus marker and place Eyeball Man in contact with the Cirrus. Using a Cirrus also counts as moved regarding ranged attack modifiers, so you will lose 2 attack dice after using a Cirrus. But since using a Cirrus is a tactical action, you can't do another tactical action unless there's some special rule that allows it. Now it's our turn again. Our second ARKHAM guard with the riot gun senses movement on the street. Let's check if we can do something about that. Damn, we have no line of sight to the street. Since we want to wait with our activation of the Dark Knight, let's activate the ARKHAM guard now. We spend his audacity marker. Like that. Our first action is movement again. We move him closer to the edge of the roof to have a better overview of the street beneath us. Now we can see a silly looking eyeball head. That's enough to shoot, because when drawing a line of sight, heads, torsos and legs count. Now let's take a look at our riot gun. The riot gun does 2 stun damage per hit. We have a rate of fire 2 and 3 ammo, which means we can do 3 ranged attack in the game. The gun has also 2 traits like blunt 2 and mechanical. Let's remember our ranged modifiers if it's actually worth shooting in this activation. We moved first before we want to shoot, so that's 2 dice that we will lose. Our target is also partially obscured by scenery. That's another die we will lose. We will not be affected by the night rule since our target is within 12 inch, but even adding the strength die to our attack pool, it will reduce all of our attack dice to 0, which means shooting is not a good choice for now. Now it's back to the Joker crew's activation. The Joker player decided now it's the time to finally score some victory points to put some pressure on us. Let's take a look at the objective cards of our opponent. Of course, in a normal game this is not allowed, but since this is an example game, we do it for learning purposes. These are the 4 objective cards of our opponent, and our opponent chooses to try to score the card it doesn't look fresh. Let's take a closer look at the card. This number is the number of objective points you score when fulfilling the requirements of the objective. This number is the number of copies of that card that are in the deck. You must have all of the copies of a given card in your deck. This symbol shows to which crew it belongs. You can't mix it in other crews' decks. This part shows the requirements of how to score the card and victory points. Let's read it. When you place a friendly suspect marker, you may change it to a poisoned fish. It is still a suspect marker. A model that reveals this marker suffers the poison effect. If the marker is in play at the end of the round, score this card. These symbols show us when exactly can we play and score this card. This means what kind of objective it is. Some cards refer to these symbols, but it doesn't do anything on its own. For example, this symbol means that this objective card is a threat objective. The next symbol shows us in which phase of the round we can play this card. Since this is a 3, we can play it during the execute the plan phase. The last symbol shows us when we actually score the victory points. The clock symbol means at the end of the current round. The lower body of objective cards show us other ways to play these cards instead of playing them as objective, like instant effects to boost our abilities, but let's ignore them for this tutorial. So let's try to score the poisoned fish. Our requirements say when you place a suspect marker. So in order to do that, we have to make an activation with one of our remaining models and do a manipulate tactical action, since only this action allows us to place or reveal suspect markers. Only Buffon and the Joker didn't activate yet in the round, and since the job is too low for the Joker himself, let's activate Buffon to do this. Our opponent spends an audacity marker and decides to move Buffon first. This corner behind the dumpster seems like an obvious place to dump a poisoned fish. The second action now is the manipulate tactical action, to place a suspect marker. Our opponent takes one of her 8 suspect markers. You have to place suspect markers in contact with the model that did the action. Also, there are some restrictions of how to place suspect markers. First, you can't have more than 8 of your own suspect markers on the board at the same time. Second, you can't place own suspect markers inside or within 2 inches of your own deployment zone. Third, you can't place suspect markers within 4 inches of other of your own suspect markers. Now that the Joker player placed the suspect marker, the objective card says you may change it to a poisoned fish. To do that, she plays the card and declares it a poisoned fish. The card stays in play until the end of the round, and if the marker is still in play at that time, the Joker player scores 2 victory points. Okay, back to us. Only one model activation left for us, and I think it's time for the Dark Knight to enter the scene. We could get rid of the poisoned fish marker if we want to. In order to do that, we would use our tactical action to manipulate and reveal an enemy suspect marker to remove it. But that would poison our Dark Knight, and also when we get to activate Batman, why not try to accomplish some more than to remove a poisoned fish in a back alley? So what else could we do? Let's take a look at our objective cards, shall we? This card, for example, is worth a closer look. Act to ARKHAM would give us 3 victory points. Also, it's one of those cards that we can only put in our deck if a model with this alias is in our crew. There's only one copy of that card in our deck. The requirements say make the opponent's boss KO or remove it as a casualty. That sounds more like a job for Batman, does it? The objective type is violence. We can score it in the execute the plan phase, and this symbol means we score it instantly when the requirements are met. So let's score these 3 victory points and go for the Joker. Since we have to move first, let's spend our Audacity marker now. When we look at the Batman character card, we see that he has a movement of 10 inch. I don't know if that would be enough to reach our nemesis, since we have to take the vertical movement into account. So let's see if the Dark Knight has some gadgets we can use for movement. We have lots of traits to use here, and the Batclaw trait specifically enhances our movement. When using traits from the compendium that show this symbol, you have to spend a special action in order to use them. Since we spent an Audacity marker for our activation, we can use all 3 available actions: movement, tactical and special. So first, we spent a special action to activate the trait Batclaw. This trait enhances our movement by 6 inch, and we can move vertically without climbing, move over obstacles and scenery. This will bring our total movement distance with Batman to 16 inches. The second action would now be movement. Even moving around the corner, this brings us easily to our target, and we can spend a third action, which will be a melee tactical attack action. Now it's time to bring the tyrant down and end this once and for all, until he breaks out of Arkham again. In order to make a melee attack, your model has to touch the base of the target of the melee attack. Now let's take a look at Batman's character card. Unlike in ranged combat, the number of attack dice you get to roll is the value of your attack skill, like 5 for Batman. As with all attacks, you add the strength die to that pool. The target number to hit is still the defense trait of your target. The Joker has a defense rating of 4, so our dice have to roll a 4+ to hit. The strength die, however, uses the strength of the melee weapon if your model has one, or the strength value of your model, which is 3+ for Batman. Additionally, your target can use its defense to actively defend against your attack. This works only in melee, not in ranged combat. Your opponent takes a number of dice equal to the target's defense skill, which is 4 for the Joker. Every successful defense score cancels one of the attacker's successful hits. The strength die can never be cancelled and is always an unblockable die. The target number for the defender to roll is the attack skill of the attacker, which in our case is 5+. So to sum it up, Batman needs 4s to hit with his attack dice and 3s to hit with a strength die. The Joker tries to defend with 4 dice that need to score 5+. Before you roll, there's a new element to enhance hand-to-hand combat even more dramatically. Starting with the defender, he can choose to make an effort. This means the model can damage itself to enhance its combat abilities. You can spend up to 3 efforts that will be immediately convert into stun damage. For every effort spent, the attacker loses an attack die. After the defender decided if he uses any effort, the attacker can do the same. For every effort spent, the attacker adds 1 die to his attack pool. In our case, the Joker could remove up to 3 dice from our pool while damaging himself in order to lessen our chance to hit. We would counter this with also spending up to 3 effort to add dice. But since we are Batman, we have the trait Sneak Attack. You can't defend against someone you can't see. The Sneak Attack trait says that if the target could not see the attacker at the beginning of the attacker's activation, the target cannot make efforts when defending against that model. So in our case, Joker cannot spend any effort, but Batman will. So we take our attack dice, we take 3 stun damage to spend 3 effort, And finally add 3 more dice to our attack pool. Let's see if the Joker goes down after this roll. 4s to hit for us, and the red strength die will hit on 3s. Okay, that looks like 5 successful hits for Batman. Now the Joker can defend with his 4 defense dice against our attack skill of 5. Every 5 or more will cancel a successful hit. That looks like the Joker cancelled 2 hits from us. In the end, 3 hits were successful. How much damage is that now? Normally, when a model doesn't have a melee weapon, the target would suffer 1 stun per successful hit. But Batman has the reinforced gloves trait, which lets us do 2 stun damage for every successful hit in melee. That is a total of 6 stun damage to the Joker. Would that be enough for him to go down? Let's see. In the last part I already explained the damage types, so when a model suffers stun damage, the number of the willpower skill is the maximum number of stun damage a model can suffer before it will be KO'd. The Joker can take 8 stun damage to be KO'd, so the lucky bastard is still standing. The Joker player puts 6 stun damage markers on the character card and our activation is over. There's only one model left that didn't activate yet. You guessed right, it's the Joker and he doesn't want to play anymore. The Joker player spends his Audacity marker and declares an attack tactical action with the Joker. He wants to do a ranged combat attack action. But wait, isn't that not allowed while you are in contact with an enemy model? Let's take a look at the Joker's character card. His gun has a damage of 1 stun and 1 blood per hit, a rate of fire of 4 and 3 ammo. So far so good. When we take a look at the traits, it says firearm, we already know that, and the light and short range trait. The light trait means that a model can fire this weapon even when it is in contact with an enemy model. Okay, so it's not cheating, alright? The short range trait means that the effective range of this weapon is 8 inch. So to retaliate against us, the Joker fires his automatic gun point blank at the Dark Knight. That are 4 dice plus the strength die against us. The Joker has to hit on 5s because our defense skill is 5, but not so fast. Batman has the MK1 Bat Armor trait, which removes the strength die of our opponent. That should keep us alive at least. Let's roll the attack dice now. The Joker player rolls and sees if there are any 5s or more. Okay, only 1 5. Since the automatic gun does 1 stun and 1 blood per hit, we will suffer that amount of damage. The Joker player don't want to do any more actions. This will conclude the execute the plan phase, and we will go to the last phase of the game round, the recount phase. In this phase, all characters that are KO'd have a chance to recover. Since there is no KO'd character, now every character with stun damage will recover 1 stun damage. And finally, we will score objective cards that will trigger at the end of the round, like the poisoned fish. So the Joker player scores 2 victory points. Whenever you score an objective card, you can immediately draw a new one. So the Joker player does that now. Finally, every player can discard an objective card and draw a new one. This will end the game round and the new game round starts with Phase 1, take the lead. Okay folks, I hope you liked my little how to play the Batman miniature game 3rd edition series. There is still a lot to learn and I didn't explain all rules. There are some advanced mechanics to learn and I will show them to you in later videos if you want to see them. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and point out some rules errors I did in the comments if there are any, and maybe you can write some suggestions of what content you want to see in the future. Please subscribe to my channel and we will see each other again when there is yet another shadow over Gotham.